everybody, it's the DAC, and I'm back at it again with a painting tutorial. Now today we are going to be painting up a model from Aeronautica. It's going to be a Imperial Thunderbolt Fury. Now there's something interesting to note. So a lot of you are probably wondering how I got those three colors down. Well, it's pretty simple. I just used some spray primers, a black, a gray, and a green, an olive drab green. It was just cheap spray primer. I went ahead and just did quick passes over the model, and if you do it like that and you don't linger too long, you can actually get a pretty cool effect. Now, for the next part here, what I'm doing is I'm blocking out all the windshields on the fighter with some Corax white. Just going to get those colors down, try to get it nice and blocked out. Now, while that's drying, what I went ahead and did is I moved on, and I kept using the Corax white for this part, but what I did is I just got a little bit of paint on the brush and I went ahead and did a dry brush over the model. And as you can see here, I'm just trying to go over it, trying to hit those raised areas. You see right here I made a bit of a mistake. It's okay, you can just kind of wipe it off if you're fast enough, if you don't let it linger too long and sit there on the model. But yeah, I'm not being really careful. I'm just kind of going to go over the model, hitting all those raised areas, trying to make sure that the details just kind of pop out and it adds a little more depth and dimension to the model, which is part of the challenge when you do anything that's kind of like a camo pattern, since camo patterns are kind of designed to break up something's profile to make it harder to see, therefore harder to shoot. So we actually kind of have to be a little bit it's a little counterintuitive, but that's one of the challenges I would say to doing a camo pattern is you tend to lose detail. So as you see, even under here, it's all blacked out. So what I want to do is I want to go over it with a little bit of a dry brush again, trying to just bring out some of those under details. So now we have all that down. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to use a little bit of Nolan oil here, and I'm just going to go over the model specifically on the gray and the black parts. So the reason for doing this is it just adds a bit more depth to the model. Remember, we are kind of fighting the camo pattern that we're using. It looks really cool, but if we leave it too flat, it's just so much of that detail is going to be lost. In some of these miniatures, there's some of the best miniatures Games Workshop's made, certainly when it comes to like mechanical kits. So we want to bring out as much of that detail as we can, but we do want to save ourselves a little time. So we went over all that with Nolan oil, and now while it's still wet, I'm going to get a little BL tan green here, and I'm just going over those green areas to just kind of make them a little stronger. And frankly, a lot of the dark areas that are still wet with Nolan oil are I'm just going to go over, just kind of bump into them. It's okay. It's almost like a little bit of wet blending, but we're not afraid of doing that. That's okay. Now, right now, some of you are probably going, wow, that's a bit green. That's a bit overblown. And frankly, you're correct. Fortunately, there is another step we're going to take while a lot of that's still pretty wet, which is going over it right now with an Igrax Earthshade. So what the Earthshade does is it helps bring it down a little bit, makes it a little less bright green, and kind of brings it a little closer to an olive drab that we want. And it makes some of those recessed areas a little darker and just adds more depth to the miniature. So now that white's dry for the cockpit, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to use a little bit of Blood Angels Red contrast paint. And what you're going to want to do is just block those areas out. You just want to fill them up with paint. You don't want to get too crazy with it, but you want to get a good enough amount down to where the outside borders kind of, as you can see here, some of the outside borders are a little darker, so you have those brighter center areas. This is the final product, and frankly, it did not take a whole lot of time. This will help you. This is absolutely a speed paint. If you like this video, stay tuned because we have more on the way. All right, well, that's it. This is the DAC, and I'm out.